On today's History of Politics, we're going to talk about the 10th Amendment. It's a very important amendment, and as a matter of fact, we're having a crisis of that as we speak. So basically, the text of the 10th Amendment says this. It says that anything that's not specified, well, anything that is specified by the Constitution for the government or not withheld from the states by the government belongs to the states. So what that means is, for example, I'm going to give you a little example on this here. The Constitution itself spells out that the president is the commander in chief of the armed forces. So that means that a state governor could not order the Army or the Navy or the Marines to take military action. A state governor could not order the armed forces to engage in a war overseas because that title is withheld by the Constitution for the president. However, when it comes to the election of governors or legislators, that right is reserved for the people in the state in question. I live here in Pennsylvania. So we, the voters of Pennsylvania, vote in our governor and our state legislature. The federal government does not assign them, nor is it a nationwide vote. Now, here's where the Trump administration comes in, because Donald Trump took over the DC Metro Police Force. Now, the thing about DC is it's not a state. Why is it not a state? Because the framers of the Constitution did not want one particular state in the Union to possess the seat of power, because it would make it seem that that state was better than all the other states and would get more favor, more privilege. So they created the District of Columbia, or Washington, D.C., if you will, and that is where the White House is. That's where they built the White House. Now, let's take it a step further. So the District of Columbia has what's called home rule. What is home rule? Well, even though they don't have a judicial system, their judicial system, if you commit a crime, a felony crime in the District of Columbia, then it's heard by a federal judge. Why? Because they're not a state and they don't have state courts. They don't have a state prosecutor or a state attorney general. They are under a deputy attorney general from the Department of Justice. But the District of Columbia has its own mayor and its own council or legislators. So in other words, it has its own local government. Some parts are overseen by the federal government because it is not a state. And when you're talking about state level, because you don't have a governor, because it's not a state, you don't have a state legislature, so it goes into the federal realm. But here's the thing. Police forces or police departments, by and large, historically, have been municipal functions. For example, if you live in San Antonio, Texas, DPS, which is the state agency, does not patrol San Antonio, Texas. They have the San Antonio Police Department. The San Antonio Police Department is administered or overseen by the mayor of San Antonio and the city council of San Antonio, not Governor Greg Abbott, not the county executive, which is Bexar County. I made this mistake too. Some people might call it Bexar County, the way it's spelled, but it's Bear. Anyway, the county does not run the San Antonio Police Department. The state of Texas does not run the San Antonio Police Department, nor does the federal government. It's called jurisdiction. And most federal agencies are involved in interstate. Their jurisdiction is on crimes that go across states. The DEA, for example, the DEA deals with drug crimes that cross state borders, or drugs that come into the country and distributed across the country. The FBI, let's take a kidnapping case. If a child is taken out of the state, the FBI gets involved because you've crossed a state jurisdiction, a state boundary, so that brings it into the federal realm. But the DC Metro Police Department can't go into Maryland. That's not their jurisdiction. And by the same token, the National Guard cannot patrol the streets of Washington, D.C. Nor can Trump just commandeer the D.C. Metro Police Force. He can't do it. Even under home rule, he can't do it. That's not his job. The Constitution does not give him the power to commandeer a municipal police department. He is over federal level agencies. You can't commandeer a police department, a municipal police department. And that's a safeguard to you. And believe it or not, it's a safeguard to you because it gives you a freedom of choice in your state and your city and your county to elect your own people, your own judges, your own prosecutors, your own legislators, your own city council, your own mayor. It takes away the ability of a president to appoint who the hell he wants to, because that person may not have your interests. And, historically speaking, people tend to talk about things and feel a certain way about things and think things aren't going to happen to them until it happens to them. I'm really hesitant to bring this into light, but there were certain Latinos that voted for Trump. They felt that being at the devil's right hand was better than being in his path. They thought they would be untouchable by voting for Trump. I've heard so many of them saying, wait, man, I voted for Trump. I voted for Trump. Trump didn't care about that. Trump deported him. Conversely, Trump needs to go spend the night in a homeless shelter. He needs to go visit one. He doesn't know what it's like to be a down-on-your-luck American. He doesn't know what it's like to be the average American who has to work 2 to 3 jobs in some cases just to keep their nose above water. He doesn't know what it's like to rob Peter to pay Paul. He doesn't know what that is. He doesn't have to struggle with a food bill because we're paying for it. His billionaire buddies don't either, because what they saved in tax cuts, we're making up the balance of. So before you go stepping on somebody else, which is out of your jurisdiction, and at the same time, you're calling the people that you want to victimize animals, and you can't rehabilitate them, try living in their world for a minute. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.